Alright guys, we are finally back for another painting tutorial, and today we are going to paint Bayard's Revenge, the new special edition figure for Warhammer 40k. And we're going to start with the base here, because it's a lot of work to paint, and this guy is not going to be that many colors, to be honest, so we're going to start with the base. You will notice, first of all, it's been a while since a video. Second of all, there's no music in this video. Some company completely unrelated to the people I license my music from has decided to start copyright claiming all my videos. So I'm just not going to put any music in it for a little while until I explore other avenues. But yeah, let's go ahead and get on with it. I'm going to start here with Militarum Green. And this is going to be for the skin. We're actually going to end up using 3 different colors for the skin, but we're going to start with this one. And this is a slap chop guy, a slap chop prime. So I painted him, or spray painted him black, then I dry brushed him with Dawnstone, and then I dry brushed him, I'm not sure if I have it here, oh right here, dry brushed it with matte white from the Army Painter. So now I'm just going to take this green and apply it all over his skin. There's varying levels of slap chop that you can do, so you can add, you can dry brush very heavily with your whites and your grays, or you can dry brush a little bit less. The less you do, the more sort of stylized it's going to look, because you're going to have a lot more of the black primer showing through. I went for a little bit less this time. This guy is not going to be part of an army or anything. He's literally just picked up so I could paint him and then stick him on the shelf. And so I just thought kind of a little bit more stylized look to him would be cool. So I'm just going to get this Militarum Green applied to all his skin. I'll let that dry completely, and then we'll come back and do the next 2 greens. Alright, we are back, and we're just going to add a little bit of definition to our orc skin now. First thing we're going to use is Creed Camo. We're going to put this in all the recesses of the musculature and stuff. So I'm going to start in here in the armpit and just kind of drag it through here into all the recesses. And up here in the neck. Down here in the other armpit and around these muscles. Not being super careful about where I put it, just, you know, around the recesses. If it bleeds out a little bit, that's fine. Get in between his fingers. And then the creases here in his face, his ear, his other ear, and then the crease there. So then, now that we've got our shadows, we're going to take some Mantis Warriors Green, and we're just going to lay this on top in some of the raised areas. So right around here, here, up along here. And we're just going to do this on all the big raised areas. So I will finish this up, let it dry, and then we'll come back and work on something that isn't orc skin. Alright, we are back, and we're going to move on to his pants now. We're going to use snakebite leather for this. Going to be careful around the boots and around the strap going around here, and the armor, of course, because these are going to be different colors. Snakebite leather, if you're doing slap chop, snakebite leather is one of the colors that covers the best. Even with minimal dry brushing and mostly black, it will still cover very nicely. Something to keep in mind. Normally I might do this for the leather color, but I'm going to do Gore Grunta Fur for the leather in this case, just because it leans sort of red, and I think it'll contrast with the green skin a little bit better. So I'm going to go straight into that. No need to put a pause in here. Gore-Grunta fur, and we're just going to do this on all the leather. The boots, I think, are going to be a different color, but all the other leather. So these straps here. I grabbed a smaller brush because I don't want to get this on the skin, if at all possible. So the leather here. And I also don't want to get it on the armor either. And these will look pretty similar next to each other, especially once it dries. But I think they are different enough that this will still look good down there. And it's not, there's only one leather strap here, so not the end of the world. Not being too concerned with the belt buckles there because we're going to paint those over in metallic anyway. Just going to grab that other side of the belt there. And then this strap here, and I think that's it for the leather. I'm just going to check his wrists. Pretty sure it's like a metal band on his wrists, but I'll just double check. Yeah, I'm going to paint that. No, that is leather. Okay, yeah, there's some straps here. So I will paint this in leather. The other hand, I'm pretty sure is just the claw. Not any leather, but we'll double check it. There we go. Oh, no, yep, spoke too soon. There's a little strap right here. Alright, there we go. We're good to go. I'll let this dry, and then I'm still undecided on what color the armor is going to be. I might just do red, because I think it would look cool. But, regardless, we'll let that dry, we'll come back, and we'll figure it out. Alright, we're back, and I still don't know what color I'm going to do the armor, but we can knock out some easy stuff. I'm going to use Garagak Sewer, or however you might pronounce that, and I'm just going to do the dirt and rocks and stuff that are under him. This is where the Emperor's Champion's foot sits, so I'm not going to paint that, just to make it easier to glue. I'm also not putting a crazy base. I'm not going to do anything other than just paint the base on this guy, just because I kind of want him to be, since he's never going to be in an army, he's just a display model to put on my shelf. I just want it to be the elements that came in the box. So no texture paint around this stuff or anything like that. It's just a personal preference I do sometimes when I'm just painting a miniature to put on the shelf to look cool. But obviously, if you're going to use him in a game, you can base him just like you would the rest of your army. And I will say, just because I'm painting this guy for display, that does not mean I'm going to be painting him display quality. Painting him just how I always would. But I'm just pointing out that he's never going to see a game table. At least as far as I know for now. I don't currently own a Black Templar army, but you never know. Maybe the 10th edition codex will excite me and I'll get into them, in which case I'll have a great start with this guy. So I'm just going to finish putting this all over the place. Make sure to get all these rocks in the nooks and crannies, and then we'll come back and do the next step. Alright, we are back, and I agonized over the armor color a bunch. I decided I don't care. I'm doing ball red because that's what I want it to be. I was going back and forth a bunch of like what would look good and what wouldn't look good and blah blah blah, but you know, I don't care. I just want them to look how I want them to look. So I'm doing red, and this is ball red, one of the newer contrast paints from GW. I may put like a brown wash or something over this just because ball red does come out a little bit pink, especially over the slap chop. But for right now, this will do just fine. So I'm going to do this panel in red here. And then the shoulder pads in this color. And then I'm just going to pick out one of the panels on the claw to also be this color. I don't know if this lines up with an official orc. What are they even called? Clans? I'm not sure. I think clans, because they have clan cultures, right? I don't know if it lines up with any of them, but don't care. I want it to look like this. And I may come back and put a checkerboard on one of them. Maybe on both of them. We'll see. We will see. Alright, so that's that. And then I'm just going to do... Looking at this, I think I'll just do this panel in red. Just like that. Alright. And yeah, I think that'll look good. This right here, I know it looks a little weird. This right here is the bottom of the Emperor's Champion's foot that sits there, so that's why it looks weird. We will paint that when we figure out how we're going to paint the rest of him. But yeah, I will let this dry, and we'll come back and add some details. Alright, we are back, and we're just going to do his boots real quick. I'm going to use Black Legion for this. Just going to come down here, and I'm just going to try to avoid these two metal plates that are on his feet. Even though we are going to paint metallic paint over them, I like to, when I do slap chop, I like to dry brush the metallics over, because then you still get some of the slap chop dry brush underneath it, and I think it looks good. So I'm going to do that in this case as well. So I'm just going to avoid these armor panels where possible. I'm going to just include this bit in the boot though. There we go. And then I will paint this part, because this is the part of the Emperor's Children's foot. Oh yeah, we will have to glue it to that, so maybe I shouldn't have painted that, but you know, it's painted now. Oh well. Alright, so I will let that dry, because the next step is going to be the silver, and I want those boots to be completely dry before we come in and mess with them at all. So actually, I can do one more thing before we put a pause in here. I'm just going to, maybe if I have, oh yes, here it is. I'll take some Agrax Earthshade here. No, this is not Agrax. Reichland Fleshshade. That is the color I want, despite saying Agrax. And I'm just going to put this around his mouth. It's not going to do a lot on the green, but it will do something. Just give it a little bit of brown flesh-colored tint. I'm going to do it on his hands as well. Just a little bit. Like I said, won't do a lot, but it'll help just sell the realism. Just a little bit more. Get a little bit more in there. There we go. And I forgot his other hand is in the claw, so we don't need to do it for that. Maybe just on this, the veins here that are showing. Just get a little in there like that. A little like that. On these scars, maybe. Sure. So, I will, again, let this dry completely, and then we'll come back and do the metallics. Alright, we are back, and we're going to start off with black metal here from scale 75. And like I said, we're going to do just a little bit of dry brushing with this. Really not dry brushing, more like over brushing. I'm going to use my bigger brush. Just going to get some on the brush and then get most of it off, but not getting it completely off. And then we're just going to come in and do just like a patchy sort of overbrush. And this will just keep the sort of style of slap chop by showing the white and some of the silver in between, or some of the white and the gray rather, but it will also make it so that it's, you know, it obviously looks silver. So I'm just going to come in here, do this, get this in here, and all this. I'm going to do this part in a different color, but just going to come down here. There we go. Get that part in there. All right, and I think, oh, I'm going to get this down here. I think everything else is going to be either this, we might end up doing this in black, but I think everything else is going to be the lighter silver. So we can go ahead and switch to that now. We'll switch to our skinnier brush here. We're going to go to Plate Mail Metal from Army Painter. And this is going to be for several things. So first, all the rivets on him. So all of them like this. There's an errant brush in my, or an errant bristle in my brush rather. So just gonna come and get these here. There's some there as well. And then all the belt buckles are going to be in this color. There we go. And then the little, anywhere there's a little chink in the armor on these guys, I'm just going to do this with this color. And then all the little details like this thing here are going to be this color as well. So I'll just go through. Get that. And we're going to come back and dull this down and add some brown wash to it and stuff like that. But for right now, this will do just fine. So I'm just going to go all over him, doing belt buckles, rivets, and those little spots of armor damage. And then we will come back once it's all dry and do the next step. Alright, we are back, and we're going to paint the rest of the claw here. So I just got some Space Wolves Gray, and we're just going to put this on the parts of the claw that we haven't painted yet. I did do one other thing during the break, because you guys didn't really need to see it. I just painted white back on the nails here, and on his eyes, and on his teeth, so we can add some contrast paint on the top of that. So I'm just going to take this Space Wolves Gray now, and it's not going to change a lot on this claw here, but we will just tint it ever so slightly. That's all we're really concerned with doing. Make sure to get it down in the cracks and crevices here. Down in there. I'm actually going to put some over that as well. There we go. Alright. So there we go. And now we're going to grab just some skeleton horde right here. And we're just going to put this over his nails and over his teeth. So just come in, and skeleton horde might be, maybe, no, there we go. I was going to say it might not even be powerful enough, but it is. We're good. Let's get it over there. Just like that. And then I'm going to take some Frost Heart and do his eyes with this. I'm going to, I think what I'm going to do is make his eyes, as well as the sword in the Emperor's Champion's hand, be this color. And so it's like he's being stabbed with the energy, and it's exploding out of his eyes. At least that's the idea. So I'm just going to go hit the eye and the area of skin around the eye just a little bit. There we go. And then I'm also going to paint down into this here, and then around, just like that. And so we're going to do the sword in this same color, and hopefully it'll look like he's stabbing down into him with the sword, and the light from the sword and the energy from the sword is going out through him. Alright, so that really about does it, other than some washes and stuff. So I will let this dry. I'm going to let it sit for a little bit longer than normal, make sure everything is completely nice and dry. Then we'll come back, add some Nuln Oil, some Agrax Earthshade, and some Mortarian Grime, I think, and we'll call him done. Alrighty, we are back, and I forgot one more, or I didn't forget one more thing. We are going to add one more thing. These teeth here, they're just a little too white still, so we're going to take some Iron Jaws Yellow, and what I'm going to do is, I don't want just straight Iron Jaws Yellow, because that will be far too yellow. I'm going to dip it in the paint, then I'm just going to dip it in my water cup, so that'll thin it out just a little bit, and then I'm just going to come in and put a little bit of this on the teeth. It's going to be a little too much on there, because I dipped it straight in the water cup, so we're just going to come back, pull some of it back off. But there, now we have a much nicer tone on those teeth. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on the nails. Alright, so now we will move on to the planned steps here. So we're going to start with some Agrax Earthshade. Shake it up. Get the bristle off there. And then we're just going to put this on the red. On the pants as well, and on these straps here. Not on the metal, other than the little bits of metal that we put on the red. Just work it into this one as well. And then I'm just going to put a little bit down here on the dirt, just to give it a little more definition. I'm not going to go crazy on this because, like I said, he's just sitting up on the shelf, but yeah, just get a little more on there. Alright, and then we're going to take some Nuln Oil, and I'm not even going to rinse my brush off because I just want a tiny bit of that Agrax still on my brush. And then I'm just going to come in and add this over top of all the metal. Get it all worked in here. In like that. On the clips here. There we go. Oh yeah, I didn't paint these studs. I'll go back and paint those studs on his little strap there. In a minute, but for now they're fine. Finish that up there. Alright. And with that, oh no, not quite with that. One more step, some Mortarian Grime. I'm just going to put this in a couple places. I'm going to put it on his skin. Not going to do a lot on the skin, but it's just going to add a little bit of like dirt in the like creases of his skin. You probably won't even be able to notice a difference on camera, but in real life, if you looked at it, you'd see the slight light browns in the creases of his skin, and so you just look a little bit dirty. And then I'm just going to put it, just touch it in a couple places on the metal. And again, you may not be able to even notice a change on camera, but in person, it'll help sell this sort of beaten down, worn out equipment that the orcs use. Obviously you could go a lot crazier and do all sorts of rust and stuff, but for just this basic paint job, this will do just fine. And there he is. So I would say right about now you'll be seeing pictures of him fully done, but you won't, because we still have to do the Emperor's Child. Not Emperor's Children. Wait, Emperor's Champion. That's the one. You know, it happens. So here's this guy having his worst day ever. And either in a separate video, but probably just a continuation of this video. Any second now, I'll come back and we'll paint the Emperor's Champion. Alright, we are back, and we've got the Marine out now. We're going to go ahead and get started with Black Legion. Pretty simple. Again, this guy is slap chop, just like his base is, or was. The only difference is I went especially hard with the white on the shoulder pads here, because his shoulder pads are white, and we're just going to use some Apothecary white or maybe some Soul Blight gray over this, but I had to get it brighter than normal to start, because obviously the white contrast paint won't really do anything over a strong black primer. So I'm going to start off with the more delicate stuff here, just the edges of his shoulder pads, and then I'll get the rest of his armor as well. This guy should be pretty straightforward. This step is honestly gonna take care of most of the Marine for us. After this, after we do the armor, we'll have the silver and the gold to do. A little bit of red here and there. The blade of the sword, and that'll be about it, really. So, honestly, the base might have more colors on it than the Marine. Nothing wrong with that, though. The lots of colors and the just a couple colors will contrast nicely with each other. Get the edge of this shoulder pad, being very careful not to hit that white. Alright, I'm going to switch to my larger brush here. Make sure the bristles are wet before I go in here. And then I'm just going to black out everything. Because we're doing this slap chop style, I am going to stay away as much as possible from the other stuff, like these ribbons and things. I'm going to do them red, just like the box art. And so in order to do that, I need to not paint them black. I know, crazy concept, that. I'm also going to try to stay away from the leather here. I originally would have done his leather in Gorgrunta fur, and we may still do that, but I realized that's what I did the orc's leather in. So I don't know how big of a deal it would be if their leathers matched, but I feel like it would look kind of weird. So we might pick a different color. We'll see. But in any event, before I ramble on too much further, I am just going to cover all of his armor in this Black Legion, and then once it is all nice and dry, we will come back and probably do either the red or the tan. Alright, we are back, and first we are going to use some Skeleton Horde to do the tabard on this guy. Just going to make sure my brush is moist. Help the contrast paint lay down a little bit better. And there we go. The tabard runs up in between the armor panels here, so I'll make sure to get that. And then the back, of course. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I left the black pretty strong when I did my dry brushing, just because I think it's kind of cool to have this more stylized look for this guy, since he's just going on the shelf. Not for everybody, I admit, but that's okay. So now we're going to use some Flush Terror Red, and we're just going to do the purity seals back here. These purity seals are interesting, and there is no wax on them. They're just really long strips of parchment or whatever. And I'm painting them red just because they're red on the box art. I'm just keeping keeping that color. And then I'm also going to do the handle of his sword in this color. Alright, and then we just come in here very carefully. And there we go. Alright, so that's our tan and our red done. We might go back and do another layer of the skeleton horde just to see if we can get it to show up a little bit more. But, honestly, for this kind of look that we're going for, I think that's just fine. So, I will... Probably you don't need to let that dry, but I do need to figure out what color I'm going to use next. So I will find it, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, we are back, and I'm going to use some Soul Blight Gray for the shoulder pads here. Just give it a good shake. And then just a quick coat of this over the shoulder pads. It's going to be mostly the color underneath shining through. But that is what we want in this case, because we don't want them to look gray, we want them to look white. This gray will just help shade it a little bit and hopefully make it pop a little bit more. There we go. And then I decided I'm not too worried about this guy matching his orc counterpart here, so I am just going to do the leather in Gorgrunta fur. Get my smaller brush here. Start with the holster. And this kind of model can have leather kind of hidden in some places, so we're going to be diligent and make sure that we get all of the different spots covered. He's got these things, for instance, these little buckles everywhere. I'm going to do these in this color. Actually, not sure what color they are on the box art, but I'm going to do them in this leather color because I think it looks cool. There we go. Get his belt here. Get these other little buckles. Alright, oh, I meant to do that, that cable, or this thing around his neck in red. I'll go back and do that on the break. I feel like he has more of these little attachments somewhere. Am I crazy? Maybe I am. Okay, well, I guess that's all the leather then. Oh, nope, he's got one right here, staring me right in the face. Does he have one on the other side? He does. There we go. Alrighty. And then we'll just go straight into the next color here. I'm just going to take some Imperial Fist and do this little lantern thing he has on his belt. Just put some of this in there, just to give it a little bit of a glow before we come back and paint the metallic on there. Get a little more on these. There we go. And then just a little bit underneath there. Oh, got a little spot on the armor. I'll wipe that off. And that's fine. Alrighty, so I will let that dry. Then we'll come back. I'm just going to paint that cord red in the break. But then we'll come back, do our last couple of contrast paints, and then paint some metallics. Alright, we are back, and in the break I painted that cord red like I said. Then I just put some white in his eyes here so we can put some contrast in there later. And then I painted a white line on the blade, the edges of the blade here, just to catch the contrast paint a little bit better. First, we're going to start off with Space Wolves Gray, and we're just going to put this all over his armor. This will just tint the high points of this contrast paint a little bit blue, because if you look at If you look at the Black Templar's armor, they've got a slight blue tint to the edge highlights. We're not going to edge highlight here today, so we're going for a much easier paint scheme than edge highlighting. But we'll still get a little bit of that tint, which is exactly what we want. So we're just applying this everywhere that we painted black armor. I'm not going to put it in the recesses, so then these the armor panels and the recesses will look slightly different. Just get the top of the backpack here, and then the arms. I'm going to put it a little bit in that one just because I didn't get very much black paint in that recess. Just come down the arm, on here, on his hand, and then on his tilting shield, and then his helmet. Alright, there we go. And you may not be able to see very much in camera just because of the quality, but I promise you he does look a little tiny bit tinted blue, and that's what we wanted. So now we're going to move on to Frostheart, which is the same color we used on the orc, and we're going to do this on his sword. Just come down here. Get a nice strong coat of this on the sword. We'll not get it on the armor too much here. We will get it on the sword. Go up the other side here. There we go. Just even it out in there. Alrighty. So now hopefully that sword stuck in the orc that or the wound of the orc that we painted blue earlier will look pretty cool. So I will let that dry, and then we will come back and paint our metallics. Alright, we are back, and we're going to start off with silver, and we're going to use black metal from scale 75 for this. So we're just going to go around the miniature picking out details here and paint him silver. So we'll start with the chain here on his sword arm. Just going to paint in the individual chain lengths here, keeping some of the white and the silver showing just like we did, or some of the white and the gray showing rather, just like we did for the orc. Just keep the same sort of theme or style with the slap chopping. There we go. And then this ring around the sword handle as well. And then can we see the pommel at all? Maybe a little bit right there. Right there maybe. Not a ton. So we'll come into the face here. It's got this big old Templar mask thing going on here. We're going to paint it silver. I think it's painted white on the box art, but I actually like it in silver, so that's what I'm going to do. Paint those in silver as well. He's got a bunch of rivets on his armor. I'll pick out a couple of them. Why not? Come down to this lantern. Just want the suggestion of metal on these crossbars here. Otherwise we want the yellow to be the main show. There we go. Alright. These Templar symbols on the shoulder pads are going to be silver as well. They're black in the box art, but I don't know, I kind of like them in silver. I think they look cool in silver. So that's what I'm going to do. This other little thing on the shoulder pad we're going to do when we do the gold. So we'll leave that for now. I'll get this symbol here. There we go. Pick out some of the rivets on the backpack. Good. He's got some rivets back here. I'm not going to paint all the rivets, but I'll pick out some of them so we get the idea. Paint the clasp here. Yeah, the grenade. Just put the hint of metal. I'm going to do the handle of this also. There we go. Alrighty. This is going to be gold. That's gold. Oh, I'll do these rivets here. I'll actually have to look at the box art and see what color the laurel is. I don't think it's green. I don't think this part of the model has any green on it, but I'll double check. Alright, so I will double check that, and then we'll come back and paint the gold. Alright, we are back, and I determined that the laurel on his head is gold, so we're going to use Retributor Armor for this. I'm going to go straight into it here. I'm just going to try to leave just a little bit of that white showing. It's a little harder with gold versus silver, but we're going to do our best. We just want to maintain the theme and style of the slap chopping, but while also clearly marking that these things are gold. There we go. I think that does that pretty well. We'll come back and get the back side here. Up there, of course. I'm going to get the laurel up here. There we go. And then on the side here. Alrighty. And then this thing here. So I can get the camera to focus on it. Let's get some gold on there. And I think that will be it for the gold. Just confirm. I'm actually going to do the skulls here in the middle of this symbol in gold. I've decided. There we go. Alrighty. So now I'm going to grab some ball red and do his eyes. Just being careful around the metal we just painted. There we go. And then I think, besides washes, that'll be him done. Oh, I did want to do one more thing. I'm just going to take some Dawnstone here and just mark his undersuit a little bit better. So I'm just going to get some paint on here and then very gently overbrush here. Just to mark it out a little bit better. Give it a little more gray, so it's not blending in with the black as much. There we go. Some more up here. And in there. I think that's about, oh, right here. Alrighty. So now, really the only thing left is to do some washes, so I will let everything dry, and then we'll come back and do that. Alrighty, so we're going to put on 2 quick washes here. The first one is going to be Reichland Flesh Shade. We're just going to put this on the gold, just to give it a little more richness. Right there, across here, and the laurel. And then this bit there and that skull and this skull. We'll get a little bit there, and then I'm just going to put some on the red as well. I'm not convinced it actually does anything to the red, but if it does, then sure. There we go. All right. And then, of course, the tried and true Nuln Oil. This is just going to go on the brown and the silver. So first on the silver, along the chain here. On all the stuff on his face. On the grenade. On the pack here. On that. Then carefully on this lantern. We don't want to get rid of the yellow. Just want to shade it a little bit. And then I think I'm going to put it all over these shoulder pads actually, just to unify them a little bit more. There we go. Good. And then a little bit in here. Back of the chain and on there. And with that, I think we will call him done. Pretty simple, but that's alright. Sometimes simple paint jobs are all you need. So, right about now, you should be seeing him on his base that we painted earlier. All nice and glued together with the base rim painted. Not based, as I talked about in the beginning of the video. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. If you like this sort of video, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And again, I am sorry for the lack of music. Hopefully that company will get tired of claiming my videos inappropriately, and we'll be able to get back to it. Until then, I'll look into some music that hopefully will be immune to that. But yeah, thank you everybody again for watching, and I will see you on the next one.